I've played a lot of NES games, and you all ask for a lot of NES related content, and as long as people ask for it, I'm gonna make it. And one particular suggestion was from Metabolism4438, who asked for a video based on 10 popular NES games that I've never played. So that being said, today I'm gonna embarrass myself and share with you 10 popular NES games I've simply never played. Let's begin. When I started my collection strategy, I tended to avoid the best of the best, right? With good quality comes a hefty price tag, and for much less, I could build up my collection rapidly. And if you're a collector of video games, it's fun to see your wall or shelf grow in size, and for me, that's what mattered. Because of that, I've never played any of the Capcom Disney-based games people usually think of. The sole exception is The Little Mermaid. But that wasn't nearly as popular as DuckTales, TaleSpin, or Chip 'n Dale. Now, I watched some episodes of DuckTales back whenever I was younger. I was a Disney kid for the most part, but by the time I cared about Disney IPs being made into video games, I was enjoying Flash games on their website. At some point, I do want to check out DuckTales because it looks tremendously fun, and the music by Takuro Fujiwara is oftentimes considered one of the best on the system. And with the key personnel from Mega Man making this, I feel like I might enjoy it. I didn't even know what Kid Icarus was for the longest time. The closest thing to playing a Kid Icarus game I'd ever come to was controlling Pit in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and that's not remotely as frustrating as Kid Icarus. The game is a cult classic, and I would like to check it out at some point, but for me and side-scrolling platformers, we don't tend to get along. I'm kind of a baby when it comes to exploring because I don't have the best memory. Story-wise, we play as Pit, and we're going to tackle the evils of the underworld because Medusa is being a dusty bitch, right? Palutena, the goddess of light, guides us with her failing power and tells us to fight through the underworld to make it to the overworld, before making it to the sky world, all the while receiving treasures and weapon upgrades, and if you're lucky, you'll get the best ending. There are 5 of them, which is kind of impressive for an NES game if you ask me. I haven't messed around with a lot of early Rare titles because early Rare titles are kind of donkey shit, right? They aren't good, and chalk in the fact that the isometric perspective is one of my least favorite ways to visualize a game. We play as Rattle and Roll and we go through levels eating nibbly pibblies. At least that's what the manual says. Gaining weight so that we can ring a bell and progress to the next stage. The game only has like 11 levels and the controls look like they would infuriate me, but I'm open to the idea of checking it out at some point. I do own this game, and I do have intentions of playing it, but there's a distinct reason why I haven't. For anyone who watches my live streams, either here on YouTube or Twitch, I have a rule set known as the rules of release, which means if a game belongs to a franchise family in any capacity, I make sure to play them in the order of release so that I can analyze the evolution of the franchise throughout video game history. To many of you that might sound stupid, and yeah, it might be, but I make these videos with a clear objective to honor and preserve the history of video gaming my own unique way. That being said, I do believe that I will be playing this within the year, as I've played the other 2 prior games that came out long before Sunsoft's NES release. StarTropics is a game that I've owned for a while, but I never got around to playing it, and for the longest time it's because I thought it was a role-playing game. It has all of the branding and aesthetics of being a role-playing game without any in-game aspects, but fault me for not knowing. I genuinely didn't know. I would like to check it out at some point because I have the original paperwork for it, and while I won't soak it in water like you're supposed to, it is cool to think that at some point, that was what you needed to do. It wasn't often the manual played a pivotal role, or at least in this case, feelies, right? We only tended to see those with Infocom games. This game does have a hit or miss vibe to it, so I hope I can go in with an open mind. Alright, Faxanadu. This is another example of the rules of release preventing me from checking out a popular game. For those of you who don't know, Faxanadu, as an action RPG, is a spin-off of Xanadu, right? Xanadu itself is a sequel to Dragon Slayer on the MSX. So we have a compounding situation where my rules of release are fairly strict. I need to play Dragon Slayer on the MSX to continue down the lineage that would eventually lead to Faxanadu. Luckily, I'm about 4 RPGs away from Dragon Slayer, so I will be playing it soon. Now, for anyone who hasn't played Faxanadu, it is a Metroidvania, one of my least favorite genres historically in the gaming industry. I hate the idea of randomly walking around a massive map with absolutely no insight as where to go or what to do. My brain just doesn't work like that. And I'm hoping if I enjoy Symphony of the Night, that I'll be more open to it. It does look good. Oh hey, another action RPG. Crystalis is an SNK game. SNK was very hit or miss prior to their creation of the Neo Geo, and their arcade game ports can be pretty gnarly. Crystalis was only on the NES and the Game Boy, at least before it was re-released for the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection on contemporary consoles, and from what I've seen, it plays a lot like Ys, which is the game that opened me up to the idea of action RPGs. Well, that and Hydlide, which is probably making you grab your pitchforks. Well, I'm sorry. I enjoyed Hydlide, but it took me playing a decent action RPG to understand how these games worked. Now in Crystalis, our objective is to destroy tons of monsters with 4 specific elemental swords. The game itself is named after the 5th sword, but we use all of the other ones to exploit their elemental affinities to decimate enemies and to alter our environment. For example, the Sword of Water can create a bridge of ice. Shadowgate is a point-and-click game much like Deja Vu. In fact, it belongs to the same franchise, the Mac Venture line of games, named so because they were originally released on the Macintosh computer. But I don't mess with the Mac stuff because it's all black and white, and if I wanted to see that, I'd just try to get Doom to run on my wife's Kindle Fire, right? It's not appealing as a graphical standard, at least not to me. Shadowgate is a hard and mean game. More often than not, it ends up on lists of hardest NES games, and if I recall, I actually put it on there myself. It's Trial and Error 101, and I don't look forward to playing that. That being said, I did enjoy Deja Vu, so maybe I'll luck out and have a good time with it. I am beyond upset that I have never had a chance to play this on my stream. Journey to Silius is perhaps one of the greatest games on the NES for a few different reasons. Number one, the music is fucking awesome. Naoki Kodaka knocked it out of the galaxy with his compositional abilities. Number two, the game looks amazing. Chalk it up to Sunsoft consistently giving a damn about how their games are presented. Number three, it's a genuine challenge that isn't tied to stupid gimmicks like other games of the era such as Castlevania, Battletoads, and Ninja Gaiden. It's a good, solid game, and I need to check it out. From what I know, I don't think the game is that expensive, so maybe I can add it to the shopping list at some point. Ah yes, Double Dragon. A lot of people like Double Dragon, I can't stand it. I'm not a fan of it. Double Dragon 1 was a watered-down imitation of the arcade entry. The best way to describe it is that the arcade version was grape Kool-Aid, and the NES version was grape Flavor-Aid. It's not the same. Also, there's a bitch of an RNG at the end of Double Dragon, one with a wall that attacks you, and to this day, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Double Dragon 2 was, I played it with a friend when he came over, and I didn't really care much for it, because I was more focused on the conversation, but Double Dragon 3 with Bimmy and Jimmy Lee? I do need to play it. There was a Double Dragon 3 in the arcades, and it was known as the Rosetta Stone, but the NES port is its own thing, and I don't know anything about it, other than there's a decent running jump kick that you can use to kick people in the face, and that you can throw enemies by jumping on them, which I found to be pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of techno stuff historically, like at all. I just never really cared for it, but I'd be open to checking this out. And that's it for today's list. Hopefully I didn't lose any street cred as a retro video producer due to the fact that I haven't had the chance to explore the library as much as I would like. But hey, I'm just a boy holding a baby right now. In the comment sections below, maybe you could take the heat off of me by admitting your own shortcomings in the popular NES library. I'm sure we can all make fun of each other in a hilarious way. By the way, if you made it to the end of this video, you're already home. We're a community of folks who just enjoy remembering a time when life was a little bit easier to live. So feel free to subscribe as we continue our journey to 8,000 subscribers. Finally, the single most important thing you can do for me today is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly impacts the visibility of the projects and videos that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes, Fortefyre out.